Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I actually want to talk about some classic TV. I've been doing a lot of classic film conversation at InSession Film, but I've actually just written about the Golden Palace at I think their FAR review, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about it because it needs to be discussed. You know, it's very easy to, particularly now because of the streaming availability, it's very easy to just roll into the Golden Palace as if it were the de facto season 8 of the Golden Girls, because we all adore the Golden Girls, and you don't want it to end, and we just kind of roll right along with the Golden Palace. And ironically, for being a show that was made in '92, it really fits with, you know, Netflix and chill kind of model. When it's in the background and you hear some funny, great Sophia quips or something really great and sassy, it's easy to pay attention to it in the background, or not pay attention to it. Let it just play and kind of zone out on it. However, actually going through and watching episode by episode with a critical review eye shows a lot of problems with the Golden Palace. And, you know, the number one thing I think for me is really just the character Sabotage. Everybody's so mean. Sophia's zingers can be really nasty, and Rose, they make some comments about her becoming kind of the strong one, and but yet she gets kind of nasty too. And Blanche, really, I don't know what the heck they were thinking. And, you know, for her being, you know, the man-eater, supposed slut, a lot of that happens off-screen. There's a couple episodes where she does get some romance, mixing business with pleasure, that comes across as sexual harassment. Really terrible message, mixed message. And then we've got some other ones, again, where she's attacking the pool boy or she's being taken in by a gigolo. And that's what we see. All of her being vibrant and sexy and all's off-screen. Here like they expect the audience to know the Blanche from the Golden Girls. And here we're getting some really racist old lady who says she owns the hotel, she's going to run it her way, but then she's also writing like whoopsie in the in the ledger when she's taking money, taking the petty cash to go buy a new dress, and you're like, okay, you're kind of embezzling your funds here, and we're supposed to treat this as comedy. Really seems like the writers definitely kind of underestimated the audience, and I think that's because they don't know the audience of the show. You know, they add Cheech Marin and Don Cheadle, and they also add a little kid, and you kind of wonder what the heck is the little kid doing on the show anyway. And they often have separate storylines, with the ladies in one storyline and the boys in the other, and sometimes there's not just A-B plots, sometimes there's A-B-C plots at the same time, where some episodes, a storyline will only have one scene. And so everything is really crowded and doesn't make a lot of sense. And the male demographic or the young demographic that it feels like they're trying to chase doesn't work with the audience that they expected to carry over from the Golden Girls. And yet at the same time, they expect the audience to know everything about the Golden Girls. Dorothy is often referred to on the show quite a lot, but yet not really told who she is or why, that she's related to Sophia. They just say she was the smart one, or she was the strong one, or I wish Dorothy was here. And we don't know why if you're some young person tuning into the show. So the writing really has a lot of mixed all across the board, all over the place. A lot of it's really mean and really nasty. There's some really, as I said, there's some really racist comments in the show. You know, I would have watched a show about Don Cheadle and Cheech Marin, you know, trying to run a faulty hotel. That seems like it could have been a really great fun, you know, but sometimes it's like two different shows got mushed together, and it just does not make sense. And ultimately, and I've written more in detail episode by episode, and I'll link to some of the information about what I've written as well, but it doesn't seem like the same characters. It seems like there are too many characters, there's too many stories, too many things going on, but at the same instance, the show is also very stagnant. It's very run-of-the-mill. Compared to the Golden Girls, there's been a lot of demographic talk about how in the 80s it was perceived that these were old ladies, and we were trying to show that they were still vibrant and great and women, you know, as compared to like the Sex and the City. How we think of, you know, middle age being so different now as compared to then. But on this show, the Golden Palace, everything happens in the Golden Palace. There's actually only 1 or 2 times where we actually go to other fake kind of locations out of the hotel, or we're in some goofy backyard that's clearly just the old lanai, like redone, like we're not supposed to notice. The fake kind of outside of the hotel. But really, all the action has to come to the hotel. And that just does not make sense for these characters that we knew and loved. And that's also, I guess, the biggest head-scratching thing of why the Golden Palace even exists. Because one character decided to leave the Golden Girls. Yes, B. Arthur is a huge loss. But you rearranged your entire show just because one person left. It doesn't make any sense. Think about how if Three's Company completely rearranged itself just because Suzanne Summers left. Obviously, it wouldn't have lasted another... How long did it go on? 3 seasons? 3 or 4 seasons more? I don't know. And yes, they, had a little bit of a revolving door of characters after that, but the show continued. And the irony is the Golden Girls was ripe for another roommate to move in. That was just the simplest thing. It makes no sense that they upheavaled everything. We could have had one lady work at the hotel, decide to buy the hotel, but still be at home. We had other job stories with the ladies. But the idea to just completely uproot the whole show made no sense when you could have had another family member, numerous people. I've always wondered why Debbie Reynolds just didn't become a regular. I think that would have been a lot of fun. Evil cousin Magda, any of the girls' sisters, any of the other daughters. By the time you get to the end of the Golden Palace where you have Rebecca coming in to try and give Blanche an egg, it's just become ridiculous at that point, really. Which a lot of that, the heavy conversation, those heavy issues about infertility or menopause, ages, and mothers and daughters, the science of it, all happens off screen or is played for laughs. And at that point, you just think, well, what is the show doing? There is no point to this anymore. And that actually is kind of near the end of the season, and you're like, good, glad. And then when you rewatch, when you roll back over to the Golden Girls pilot, and you think, gosh, why didn't they just have Coco the Cook come back, when Dorothy left? Come on. The Golden Palace is it's not a good show. And it's not just not a good show because it comes in the wake of the Golden Girls, which is one of the greatest shows ever. It's a show that has a lot of flaws. And for a 24-episode season, back then, I think they thought they could get away with some retooling. They did have the kid in the beginning of the season, and then they retooled it by writing him out. But then the production order is different than episode airing, so the kid is still there throughout the season, or there's a lot of continuity that doesn't make sense. And back in the 90s, well, especially in the 80s, where you probably were never going to see shows again, you could get away with something like that. We laugh at all the inconsistencies that are in the Golden Girls now. Even though we could say it's a really excellently well-written show, but oh my gosh, like all the things that are just nonsensical that they forget that they do over. But by the time you get to 92, when television is getting a little more serious, these kind of 80s holdovers just don't work. And especially today, sometimes I see shows that are network shows that are still trying old things, and you just think you don't have the time to waste anymore to plot around and figure things out and have a slow season to get things going. And the Golden Palace just doesn't know where it is and what it's doing. It expected to retain the audience of the Golden Girls, but yet, for some reason, thought that new audiences were going to tune in at the same time. And, all the behind-the-scenes shuffle really shows on screen. And the biggest thing is, again, none of it was necessary. You ran these characters into the ground for what? So, it's, as I said, you can casually watch it if you're really diehard and love the Golden Girls. But to actively, critically pay attention to it, there's just so much more bad than good. I have written in detail, episode by episode, some of my thoughts. There's really only a couple standout episodes in the series, and some of it's really more frustrating. It's very easy to tune out halfway through and just go back to the Golden Girls. And I wouldn't blame you if you did. So it's casually watchable, I guess, but it's still kind of bad, if you can tolerate bad TV. And I have written in detail, episode by episode, about the Golden Palace at I Think Therefore I Review. So you can read what I have written below as well, in addition to some other classic film commentary that I've done on the Bob Newhart Show and Mary Tyler Moore and I don't know what. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, as I said, I've been doing some classic film podcasting, but if you'd like to see some more videos on some classic television or single video reviews, you can like, comment, subscribe, follow, whatever strikes your groove. Doesn't matter. But thank you to those that have been watching. And you can read what I've written. And I don't know how to end this video. Just like the show.